Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Talking Tim webinar for March 2022. My name is Kevin Vita, and I'll be helping with facilitating today's webinar. This webinar is sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration and hosted by the National Operations Center of Excellence, also known as NOCO. As a quick reminder, at NOCO, we offer a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. On the lower right side of your screen, you can see downloads for today's slide deck and a few sample videos. Previous webinar recordings related to this topic and other NOCO presentations can be accessed from the NOCO website. Now I'll cover a few logistics for today's webinar. The presentation slides will be available through the on-demand learning section of our website. All of the attendees are on listen-only mode by default, but we'd like you to stay engaged by using the Q&A discussion pod for comments and questions. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar, so if you have any questions, we encourage all of you to enter them in the questions pod as they come to your mind at any time. The questions will be read out loud one at a time by the moderator, and our presenters will answer each question. So that's all I have, and with that, I'll hand it over to our moderator, Jim Ostrich, to start us off.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome everyone to the March 2022 edition of Talking Tim. Paul, Joe, and myself are delighted with your participation. It's been a very successful journey and event, the Talking Tim webinar, so we can't thank you enough. On behalf of the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, we are extremely busy, and but without getting into it too deep, today's webinar, the agenda that you see before you, I think you're really going to like, and we're excited, no question about it, that this one here, these two presentations, the first one coming up here after my colleague Paul Joden makes some remarks. The first one from North Carolina DOT, Dominic Ciaramitaro, will present on Tethered Unmanned Aircraft Systems, the program in North Carolina. Amanda, sorry for the spelling, Amanda Good will not be attending today. However, we look forward to Dominic's presentation first after Paul, and then another awesome presentation by Scott Watkins and Craig Tieman, or Tieman. I'm slaughtering the name, I'm sure. Anyway, on advanced responder warning through safety vest and vest fueled by video analytics. Very cool stuff. And as Kevin mentioned, we're going to have Q&A at the end of this session here today. So please, I know sometimes there's difficulties with folks not wanting to speak up, but please use the chat pod. Myself and Paul, we reserve the right to call on you. So thought I'd scare you a little bit in advance, but just kidding. We don't always get the participation, so you can write your questions in and/or comments, etc. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Paul Joden. Paul.
We are not just kidding. We will call on people. We are not kidding. So just, we had a third presenter today, but she had an emergency. Jim, I think you might want to mention Linda Unruh had they're getting nasty weather in New Mexico, and it didn't cancel on the last minute, right, Jim?
Yeah, Linda Unruh, who's been a huge champion. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard from about Linda or heard her present before, but as Paul said, there was weather issues in her state of New Mexico, and her IT connections were bad. So we'll hear from Linda again in the coming months, Talking Tims. Paul.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so today's exciting day, it just recently came to our attention. I would have guessed it's only been about a year and a half since we've been doing Talking Tim, but today starts the 4th year of Talking Tim. Holy smokes, I never even would have guessed that we've done 3 full years. So we so grateful to the Tim community, all you out there who have participated with us. We've done 36 webinars. We've, had 108 presenters. Talk about sharing information throughout the country. That's just, to us, it's great. 4,600 attendees and 3,000 post-view webinars. So even after these webinars are conducted, people are going and viewing the webinars. So we think we're getting a big bang for our buck. Years ago, I guess it's over 4 years ago now, or 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago maybe, we were shopping around. We were trying to get someone to do a couple of webinars for us. We do an occasional webinar here and there, and the VOPI conducts these T3 webinars. They did a few for us. We'd get NOCO to help us with 1 or 2 here and there. But we were looking to do one every month. And so we reached out to NOCO, and NOCO said, we'll do every one of them. We want to partner with you on this. This is a great idea, and we want to be your partner on this. And they have been, and they certainly have been a great partner. So kudos to Adam Hopp and Kevin and others from the National Operations Center of Excellence. So we wanted to thank you with that. So these are the states that have participated over these last three years. We think we got them all on Talking Tim. I will qualify this by saying there are some states here that have actually presented, and it must have been before Talking Tim, because I can remember presentations from New Jersey, Michigan, Puerto Rico, but that must have been before we started Talking Tim. So. But we want to fill in all those blocks. So what is unique in your state? What can you share with the rest of the country so we can fill your state in here? We know there are great activities in a number of states. If not, let's get going. Right? Let's get going. Don't get Jim started on that. So, but. Like some of those, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, are all doing, working on Tim. Kentucky and Indiana, for example, they have good Tim programs as well. So we'd want to mention that, but we want to fill it. We want this to be a truly national effort where everyone has participated. So that was pretty cool. We love our maps here at Federal Highway. But I have some news to share with you. So right from the beginning, we've had a very special lady working with us and facilitating just about every one of these webinars. Well, she's supporting in one way or the other. Nilo Parva, I'm going to butcher the name, Nilo. I'm sorry. You see her last name there. My apologies, Nilo. I have a hard time with a lot shorter names than that. But anyways, Nilo is highly respected by us. She's been doing some tremendous work. And although Jim, Joe, and I work hard, sometimes if you're working with us, you need patience. And Nilo has been very patient, very smart and intelligent, and been a very strong partner and a cornerstone of these Talking Tim webinars. Many of you have talked to her and reached out to her, and she's reached out to you. And but we wanted to let you know that she's moving on. That's a long way of saying moving on, but she's got an opportunity to move up and on in the world, and we certainly congratulate her on that, and just wanted to publicly say to everybody how much we have enjoyed and appreciated working with Nilu over these years, and we are sad to see you go, but happy for you, Nilu. So with that, I'll stop talking, but again, thanks, Nilu, and hope our paths cross again. And I'm hoping you're staying within our community, because you're an awesome lady. So next month, Talking Tim, we're going to have a very cool presentation. I've seen a little bit of it. So smart lighting. I think smart lighting is a huge opportunity for responders when you know the lights can adjust themselves and some other. I won't try to explain what the smart lighting does, but it's very cool. We're also going to have a presentation on how UAS was used for an after-action review. In Indiana, Captain Robert Hange, if you don't know, has been with us. He's our UAS expert on the Everyday Counts national team, and he recently had a great experience using UAS with, I think it's probe data, to actually be able to facilitate an after action. So we want to welcome them next week. And then very cool. We struggle nationally for the responder struck by data. Because of the Responder Safety Institute, we have probably a fairly good handle on fatalities, but after that, the data collection goes downhill. So we're going to have, we have been partnered, Jim has been leading an effort with the Emergency Responder Safety Institute that have a voluntary system for reporting struck by incidents, and we're going to be presenting on that, or they will be presenting on that next month in Talking Tim, and we hope you can all participate in that. And then with getting us struck by information, it's a little a rough way of receiving the data, and we have other projects in the works, but for now, the quick and easy way to start getting data will be by this voluntary system. With that, Mr. Ostrich, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. And we're definitely going to miss Nilu, that's for sure. But we do have Kevin now, and Kevin's a star in his own right. So
big shoes to fill, Kevin. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, he does. But he's already, proving himself. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So the National Tim Training, you can see this is the latest number. I was so delighted to see us break that 570 and now headed to 80 and soon 600,000 responders trained. Just pause here for a minute for you to see the totals. Obviously, the web-based training is still being utilized quite a bit. And we won't get into in much detail, but definitely that we've shared that there is a refresh or update that's coming for the national 4-hour curriculum, as well as the 6 new tech lessons that are coming about as well, and they'll be available for you, the National Tim community, for in-person training as well as web-based training. So keep doing what you're doing. Now, the sad news, but the main reason, as we always say, one of the main reasons, but surely probably at the top of the list of why Tim training is so important. This 18 fatalities thus far since the beginning of the year is, I believe, like almost 28% of last year's total of I think it was 65. My memory fails me there for a second, but again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just horrendous, and why I changed it, put those comments down at the bottom of this slide. We must. There's no. How can I say? There's no excuse. Okay. Sorry for being a little harsh here, but there's no excuse for not promoting the Tim training. You have control of the training. It's as simple as that. And when you see the final slides here of the performance from states that I've been adding now for several webinars, I'm sorry. It's just that there's no excuse for not training your responders within your state. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's not the silver bullet for sure, but the more we train our responders, the more we're gonna, reduce these line of duty deaths and ensure that we all get home to our families every night. But responders should not be dying while in the course of their duties out in the field, saving others' lives, and then, be killed themselves. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. So thank you for putting up with me there. It breaks my heart. This week alone, we had 2 troopers in Philadelphia that were struck and killed, and the motorist or the person that they were trying to, I guess, pick up, the way the story goes, on the side of a interstate roadway, what have you, and a motorist drove around them basically and struck all 3 of them and killed them. And it's just horrendous. Here's the national map. As Paul said, the maps, we love our maps, but here you see the new numbers as far as the numbers trained and those with web-based, receiving the training web-based. I like to always include the total map that you see here nationally. And quickly, here is the national goal map, if you will. If you notice, the 55% is now reflected there. And I'm glad to say there's 22, states that have already reached this 55% or greater. And it's something you need to always know. And when you meet together during your meetings, your committee meetings, you need to discuss your strategies and how you're reaching out to your responder population to engage in training. And several states are doing the websites and using Eventbrite, for example, that tool for registering. Most of you should know about those kinds of tools and other strategies to continue training your populations. Here's the bar chart. But really where I want to go and why I was harping so much at the beginning is, the top 10 states, it seems to be the same ones. But just look at these numbers over to the right here, and it's just not acceptable. I'm sorry. They're, tell me, call Paul, Joe, tell us why you're not training. I just don't understand this. It behooves us. It's so important. It's so important. Here's those top 10. So again, thank you for listening, and we're always available and here at your service. With that, our first presenter, I think you're going to change slides for me, right, Kevin? Our first presenter, Dominic, he goes by Dom, Ciaramitaro, takes it away from here. Dom?
Thank you very much. Just doing a quick sound check. Kevin, do you hear me okay?
Yeah, Dom, we hear you. Could you use your other monitor?
Okay. That was the same one I did before. Hold on. It's not this one?
Well, this one is
Kevin, you there?
showing the presenter mode. That's all.
Okay, well, let me try again. That was what I did before. Let me try this one. How about this one?
That looks good.
All right, go figure.
That looks good.
You try 3 times ahead of time, and you don't get it right until it's game day. All right, so let's, again, my name is Dom Ciaramitaro. I'm the State Traffic Operations Engineer down in North Carolina, DOT. I'm responsible for our TIM program, our TMC program, our ITS Operations Travel Information program down here in the state. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our tethered drone pilot and where we're going with it. So the common question we get is like, how did you actually get the tethered drones, right? There's a lot of traffic cameras that are out there. Here's a picture of our STOC, our Statewide Transportation Operation Center. And here's our device map where we have cameras typically around the 95-40 corridor. So the obvious answer, the obvious reason why we're looking for drones is that we have this massive gap amongst some of our areas along our interstates, and even in between cameras, we still have gaps. So there is still a need for our operations center to have better situational awareness. So the first thing we tried was we partnered with the Highway Patrol, and we purchased about five drones to help start their drone program, and with the agreement that when they get their drones up in the air, we would hope to share their feeds. Come to find out, they're completely willing to help us out, but what we tend to find out was they're very focused on doing their investigations, and just like a TIM responder should, they're trying to get off the scene as quick as possible. So trying to do some of the other things like looking at the alternate routes, looking at some of the queues, and some of the other things that we'd be concerned about that's not necessarily highway patrol focused. We were tending to see that our needs weren't completely parallel. So the next thing we tried to do, we decided to try to put some CCTVs on our IMAP trucks, which are our safety service patrol vehicles. We tried a whole host of different things. You can actually see the little camera that we mounted on our trucks. We basically Frankenstein that truck to make it happen. And unfortunately, what we were starting to see is that if we had to put any type of pull on those safety service patrol vehicles, they were already pretty heavy in weight. And the more weight we put on them, we started to get over the GVRW of the vehicles. So this was not, besides having the low pole height, we were starting to have problems with weight. So that wasn't going to be the solution to our problem. Then we looked into buying regular drones for our IMAP fleet. And what we ended up seeing was, in order to operate these drones, you need an FAA license in order to operate the drone. So we would have to get all of our operator responders trained, have to maintain their license, maintain their hours, and those kind of things. And we were starting to lose focus on what's most important. It's for those IMAP safety service patrol people to focus on the incidents. So that's how we got to tethered drones. So what we ended up doing, we submitted for a federal highways grant in our state. It's the STIC grant, and we received a $50,000 grant to do a pilot. And in 18 months, 24 months, we had to send a report back to federal highways to say, here's what we found. Part of this was the drones, and the other part we actually had emergency vehicle alerting devices. I'm sure you're aware of the Haas, Makeways, Icones. We're actually doing a pilot with those as well. That was part of this tech grant. So part of that funding went towards the drones, part of it towards the EVAs. We outfitted about 27 of our safety service patrol vehicles to pilot with the EVAs, and the rest of it went to the drones. And we ended up buying 2 tethered drones because we didn't want to buy 2 of the same. We wanted to buy different kinds to see which one would work better. So there was one type, the Photokite, that was out there, and then the other one was it's a Mavic 2 with a V-line tether, which basically means it's a DJI drone that has a separate, disparate tether and a disparate video sharing platform. And it was bought via lowest bidder through Drone Supply. So some of the capabilities that we wanted to see was the tethered drone. You could fly that thing under 150 feet, and you didn't require an operator license. So that was the big check mark on. We didn't have to put additional requirements on our safety service patrol folks and trying to get drone qualified and maintaining that certification. The other big thumbs up with this one was a high loiter time with minimal operation required. You can basically press the button, get it up in the air, and you just turn the camera every once in a while to see to change the view if you need it. But there was an incident where we had one of these things up for about 7 hours. We were looking for live streaming back into our operations center, and one of the big pieces of this is that we had a lot of collaboration with our division of aviation. They were the experts in drones, which we were not. So we worked very closely with them throughout this pilot. So here are the two drones that we are using right now. The one on the left is the Photokite, and the one on the right is the Mavic 2 with the V-line tether. So part of our evaluation report, we're looking into how they operate in different geographies. How does weather affect the two type of systems? How do they operate both in the urban and the rural environment? Urban areas typically are very saturated when it comes with CCTVs and other devices, where rural are not. So that's where we would see some of our situational awareness needs. But there were still a lot of needs in the urban area as well. The communications piece is how well these things interface, are working, in streaming the feeds back to the operations center. And of course, portability is, how can we move these in between trucks and get them to different locations, and to not have to worry about have this cumbersome system, to move back and forth. So how we procured them we did the two different ways. The Photokite, we used our research arm through the DOT, it's ITRI, and they purchased the drone because they have a waiver that they can go directly and do single source or sole source, single vendor kind of purchases. So for the purpose of research and pilots. So that was a very easy way to get the Photokite. And then we did the low bid process through procurement. And the Division of Aviation helped us out through their process because they've become experts here in North Carolina in procuring drones. So that's how we did both of them. The Division of Aviation helped us out with part of the funding as well for this one as well, because when the low bids came in, it ended up being a little bit more than we expected. So the next part was the use cases. What we didn't want to do is encumber a single responder out in the field to try to parse his responsibilities both to the incident as well as to trying to get this feed up in the air. So what we had come up with was we decided to hand the drones off to the Safety Service Patrol supervisors. So when you had a major incident, they would be able to respond in support to that responder who's putting up traffic control, as well as to be able to support with the situation awareness with the drones. We're sticking right now to incidents on the interstates or close to the interstates. Obviously because that's where our significant gaps, and that's where the significant interstate and regional effects are going to be. We've come up with a series of training checklists and pre-flight checklists. Division of Aviation helped us come up with a checklist for the drones for both sets, and this is what you need to do once you get it started to do your checks. And at the end of each time we use the drone, they fill out a checklist and send it back to us for the purpose of the evaluation. We've also developed SOPs on how to use these, and those are obviously very fluid documents as we're starting to figure them out. These two pictures here, this is one from the Photokite. Actually, they're both from Photokites. This was a double tractor trailer overturned right off of I-95. And the reason why this one was important was this is where the drone was up in the air for about 7 hours straight, never came down. The other one, this is our work zone in 95, where obviously we didn't have a camera. The drone was up there, and there was support to trying to get this overturned box truck off the road as well. We didn't know how long that was going to be. The other good thing about this one, and again, this is a caveat to the 95 project, this is also where we have a contract tower out here as well. So what I really want to talk about, and this is really to show how the use cases are there. So just a few weeks ago on Friday the 4th, there was a typical crash you would see on a Friday. What kind of Friday wouldn't have, a high traffic volume corridor getting hit, having the overpass get hit by a vehicle, and they have to close down that section of the highway in order to do a bridge inspection. So that's what happened around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. So as I mentioned before, 95, this section has our integrated corridor management project inside this work zone. So we had these already prepared response plans that were part of that ICM. So whenever there was an incident that happened on this section 95, we had a response plan ready to go. And part of this response plans are signal system timing as part of it. So here's the kicker. So, traffic is stopped. I'll go ahead and, this is the actual video from the incident. Traffic is stopped up here, and they're being redirected off, which would be off onto the ramp here. So because the incident is only on top of the bridge, they were redirecting the traffic back onto 95 right afterwards. But we were also still using, our ICM plan to bring the alternate traffic over to here, as well as this longer route that was coming this way as well. So as you see, there was a hot mess of congestion that was happening because we had all these routes kind of converging on the same intersection, all trying to turn left or go straight or make their way onto the interstate. So this is the beauty of what had happened. This little thing right here is a CCTV that's not working. So we were able to get our drone out there and provide this footage. The other thing you see out here, here's our safety service patrol vehicle that's setting up. You can actually watch them in place the traffic control, for the bridge inspectors to get out here and take a look at the underside of the bridge. Here you can see the queue. This is where the closure happened, and here's the queue that's happening. So the last piece of this is how this was so fantastic. Our drone was sitting here watching this for several hours. It was also providing this feed back to our signal system timing operators, and they were monitoring the queues. And I don't have it here, but the queue would the video would go back and forth along these corridors, and they were changing the timing by watching this signal and watching the queues that were building up on the interstate, watching the queues that are happening up on US 421 back and forth. And they were managing this because it was all part of our integrated corridor management process. So, this incident alone really showed the power of what that tethered drone can do and allow other incident management strategies to be able to work. So I'm going to throw another couple things that we had going on at the same time. So I also mentioned that EVA pilot that we have going on. That was part of this exact same innovation grant. This truck right here, that's their EVA indicating on Waze, hey, by the way, look out, all traffic on US 421 coming in this way and this way. There's an incident ahead, move over for their responding vehicle that's here. Unfortunately, these two vehicles that were up here didn't have the EVAs on them, which would have been great. But what we did have was we have another pilot going on with DriveWise. I'm not sure you guys have heard about that, but this is a CMV traffic alert. So if there's sudden slowdowns or sudden heavy congestion that's ahead, this program through INREX will go ahead and send alerts into the ELDs of truckers to indicate that there's a sudden slowdown ahead. And during this incident, so we're doing all the signal system timing, we're doing all this, the tether drone, we're doing these alternate routes. We were also warning the truckers before the queue. There was 40 separate alerts up to this incident alone that was indicating, hey, there's a crash ahead or a sudden slowdown ahead, watch out. So this incident really became the showcase of every bit of pilot and every bit of technology we had been running, and the tether drone was the cornerstone of that for us to be able to see it all. So with the challenges that we've seen, obviously, the laws, FAA guidelines, restricted airspace, all that stuff has to be overcome. This map down here is something, it was a GIS product we put together to show, like near Fayetteville and right off of 95, there's a whole host, there's an airport that's out there. So, these zeros show where you can't fly. These 150s is the absolute max of height, and everything in the green is where you can fly. So we have these maps out with all of our IMAP drivers, but you can also get them before you fly. But this is something that we had to coordinate to make sure that as we were using that drone, it wasn't flying in restricted airspace. Line of sight versus beyond line of sight, this is also something that we can't get around. Even though a tethered drone is tethered, we cannot have it being controlled from our operations center. It has to be controlled from the field. It's not a problem sharing the video back to the operations centers, but because of the law, we can't actually provide control of that drone back to the operations centers. So we're having to work our way through that. And the UAS program managers over Division Aviation are definitely helping us out with that. We are also very focused about the safety and operation during the incidents and use around the traffic. Obviously, we have to put this where that if the drone does go down, that the tether's not going to go across like 5 lanes of traffic, or the drone, it has its own safety protocols that if it does get disconnected, automatically comes back to the box where it launched. Weather has been a challenge, but not as much as you thought. That some of these drones could operate in 35-mile-per-hour winds. They could operate in the rain, and even the photokite has thermal, so you can actually see the different spectrums with those cameras. And the last piece was the live streaming has been complicated. This one is really unique to both of the different drones. For the photokite drone, it has its own streaming software where you just send out this web link and you enter in the code that comes from the drone, and you type it in here, and anybody can get the actual feed itself. So you can share that website with the responders in the field, and then you just put the code in and they can see the drone feed themselves. Now for the Mavic 2, that one's gonna be a little more complicated. We have to use something, we have to share the video via Teams, because what we wanted to use was drone deploy, but this is a account-based share live streaming platform, and it was just going to be too problematic. So we have found a way to share these video feeds via Teams with anybody who needs to see them. But we are overcoming a lot of the challenges that we've seen with it so far. So that's our drone program, our drone pilot, and some of the other things that we've done as well. Does anybody have any initial questions about what I've talked about today? And I can't see the chat right now. I'm going to pull it up now. All right, Kevin, can you help me out with some of the questions? I wasn't keeping track of them during my presentation.
Kevin, usually we do the Q&A. Yeah, usually we do the Q&A at the end after the presentations.
Got it. Okay, then I guess we'll do that later. But thank you all for letting me talk about our drone program today.
Dom, thank you. That was an excellent presentation and very interesting and worthwhile to explain how the difference, I guess, between tethered maybe and untethered, if you will, UAVs. There's definitely advantages for sure, and we'll be talking more about that as well. So thanks again. Next up, we have Scott and Craig from Mobile Video Computing Systems, and let's just get right to it. Scott? Scott, can you hear me?
Hope he's not muted. Hope he's still there.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Jim. I know Scott, I think, may have been kicked for a second ago, so he may have come back and still may be muted. Craig, can you...
it says he's connected. Scott, are you muted? Well, I can try to begin and do what I can. This is Craig Tieman. By the way, Jim, you had it correct the first time.
Thank you.
So I'm the Chief Engineer for Mobile Video Computing Solutions. Scott is our founder and CEO. And today we're going to be presenting on our Move Over Awareness System. MOAS is our acronym for it, which is designed to address roadside fatalities, injuries to first responders in all aspects of highway operation. Okay, Scott just sent me a text. He's calling back in. He was muted. Okay. So anyway, I'm just introducing that. So I know Scott will have many more things to add about the company when he does join us. So if he's not going to jump on in any second. Oh, Scott is saying you have to unmute him. Something you can do on your end?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Craig. That was good work. All right, if you can hear me now, I take it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you so much. Welcome to Mobile Video. A little bit about mobile video. We've been in the industry of mobile video recording on vehicles for 25 years. We're principally in Detroit for East Coast and Central operations. We're in Phoenix also for West Coast operations. With me today is Craig Tieman. He's our chief engineer. I'm the primary inventor and the founder of the company. We also want to give special thanks to Matthias Kluck, who is with Cognizant and one of the genius part of this program. That being said, about 12 years ago, we pivoted to all digital, and with all digital came also communications, so that we can go live view off our vehicles that we support, doing projects both here, Europe, Saudi Arabia, et cetera. In 2014, we began to focus on first responders, primarily ambulances and also towing. The reason was that they were very volatile, very expensive vehicles, very expensive insurance costs, and in need of a lot of assistance, and there was just way too much activity going on the roadways. We got involved with motor clubs initially and designed a program to use cameras on tow trucks to provide better assessments of accidents and vehicles in accidents as well. In order to do that, we formed a monitoring center. So we have probably one of the only mobile monitoring centers where we're connected to vehicles all across the country, and we support them primarily the focus on towing at this point, that they are commonly involved in accidents, if not accidents, and then claims or accusations about damaging vehicles that they're towing, et cetera, and also the number of accidents that they're involved in. And because we monitor, we commonly make video reports. We can go live over the air and pull a tremendous amount of video footage off of the vehicles, usually having 4 to 5 cameras that produce over a 360-degree view. So in doing that, we also, every week for all our customers, we ping their cameras and make sure every camera is functioning, and we do reports of those systems. The reason I'm telling you all this is that this is how we got to the position we're in to identify this problem that was going on. Frankly, working with AAA, they made a plea that you would think someone would come up with an idea to do something about these tragedies. That being said, we pride ourselves as a solutions company. We get very deep into the issues, not necessarily just the surface level, but what goes on going forward. What I'd like to do now is, because of our monitoring center, share with you videos, actual footage of our walk through this need to make a change. So if you'd like to go to videos now. Thank you. And I want to remind everybody, you can expand your screen and see the whole view. So this is a typical day in Arizona. Our towers are on the road and in a very dangerous position. You can see them there. This is a early footage dating back to 2018, not high def at this time, but certainly D1 quality, and no one's moving over, right? You've even got an officer back there, and so it's near and dear to our hearts that this is the root of the problem. Next slide, or next video. Okay, this is famously a very, very big concern, and this should play. Okay, this went viral. This is from our tow trucker. Terrible. See that? It was just a fraction of a second difference between a horrible event. So in looking at this and seeing that white line and realizing that there were signatures being developed by that oncoming vehicle, that if we could assess that in real time, we probably could then correlate that into doing something to identify a vehicle working incorrectly. That spawned the thought of mine that why not use forward-facing collision avoidance technology and face it backwards? In this case, face it backwards and face it forwards. So this, unfortunately, what happened to the motorist after striking that bed. Notice the car oncoming is cognizant, sees what's happening, moves to the, and there she goes. So this, and again, we thank you to Troy Auto Care, a AAA member that helped us do this. So that being said, that was one of the first clues. The second thing is this video where the operator, the tow operator, it becomes aware of the danger. He hears it. And then so what's happening here is just wait. And what's happening here is a box truck is falling outside and sliding down the road. So that was a really big indicator to me that there is time, 55 miles an hour is 82 feet per second. There is time to act and react. In this case, here's an example where you can argue he's not supposed to be in the road operating the vehicle, but what's troubling is what happens next. He sees it, he's aware, and just give it a second here. So he's operating, and then one car is kind enough to move over. Now watch this. these flailing his arms, et cetera, the car still impacts the truck. So even with direct visual view of the driver, the motorist doesn't react. The motorist is there but not there at all, and that was another point that we wanted to come up with a way that the ultimate distracted driver we could focus on the tow operator and a means to help them protect themselves, look up, get out of the way. If you're not looking in the way of the traffic, to get their attention. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig, and we'll speak to the invention.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Scott. So I see the slides are back up. Could you proceed to the next slide, please? Thank you. And again, if this is a little hard to read at normal screen size, go to full screen. It'll be easier to read. So based on what Scott just described and showed as the inspiration for this idea, we were already in the CCTV or mobile video recording business leading into this. And so the idea here was to augment that video recording and capturing with the ability to have a sensing system. And I should mention that prior to my time with mobile video, I did 2 decades with Tier 1 automotive supplier Delphi Automotive, working in crash avoidance technologies and crash injury mitigation technologies, airbag systems. So recognized immediately the applicability of ADAS technology, but just flipped around where it's on the stationary vehicle, in this case, the tow truck or the emergency responder vehicle, looking backwards, as it's shown here, some of these typical profiles, these highway profiles that, straight roads, curved roads, and then one that's not shown here for lack of space was coming from the other direction. So, the idea was to have sensing technology looking fore and aft from the emergency responder vehicle and running typical types of algorithms that are detecting and classifying oncoming traffic and calculating in real time speeds and trajectories and times to collision to this vehicle, or the area around this vehicle. So that the requirements were written, and a project was initiated, and we chose our strategic engineering development partner, Cognizant, and the lead engineer, Matthias Kluk, is on the phone if they're on this call if he wants to answer any questions later. But we're at the proof of concept phase. We've already put together, Matthias and his team have put together the first proof of concept, and the idea was to create an instrumentation system with off-the-shelf production sensors, computational elements, alerting devices, in terms of lighting, signaling, sound, and we're also. Well, I wasn't ready quite yet, Scott.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I was just reading this off. I'll get to there in just a second. So the idea was then, and then to complement that with a first responder worn vest that would also be a component of the system, a mobile component of the system. So you can advance the slide now, please. Thank you. So what we did, this is just identifying the next slide will show a photo of this, but the proof of concept system is a MOS development box, which is our A example. And it's well, I won't go into the details of how we put it together. Let's just advance to the next slide. So you can see here, this is all off-the-shelf componentry. You see at the top a radar system, a long-range radar system, and then lower down you see 2 shorter-range LiDAR sensors, light distance and ranging technology. Actually 3, not 2, but 3. And then inside we have a self-contained power supply, a Raspberry Pi computational system, as well as all the necessary software that it was custom developed to take the measurements and create signaling. You can see the red on the right image near the upper right corner. You can see the red light, and then there's also a siren associated with that. So this would be mounted on a test vehicle for testing, and then that was successfully put together and tested. And so now we've just moved to the A1 sample, which is on the next slide, where we decided we're going to start moving towards the direction of how we would develop a production system. In this case, this would move all of the sensors and signaling to one package for external mount, looking fore and aft. There's 2 radars there now. and then it has the signaling, the lighting, and the sirens, and then the computational system is all in a separate module that would be inside the vehicle. So now we're at the A1 sample, and then we're going to be moving to our...
Greg, let me slow you down for
Oh,
a second.
sure.
Make sure, so to break this down further, so combining is a number of tactics to alert at the local scene and perhaps the oncoming motorist, maybe. But the use of the radar forward and rear is to look to see a vehicle working out of the herd. That it's loud enough and local enough that to get the attention in the video you're going to see, you're going to hear it. But you've also got side sensors, so you're seeing down the road, before and back. If side sensors confirming the vehicle is there, you have, and then video operating in parallel to this while you're signaling the vest, shaking the vest with a haptic device, et cetera. So thank you, Craig, for letting me inject that.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, so what Scott's referring to is the signaling strategy, which is still in development, and we intend to work with this organization on developing the right standards for how to warn, because we've had many discussions about, you know, obviously a localized warning near the truck, okay, near the vehicle itself, will certainly alert the first responder and any potential other people in the vicinity, but we've also been concerned about the possibility that it might direct their attention to the truck and not to the direction of the threat, which is the oncoming vehicle. And so we're also talking about strategies for directing their attention in the right location for where the threat is, so they can perceive it immediately. And then we're also talking about the ability for us to attempt to warn through lighting and sound the oncoming driver. Now that's a bigger challenge, and we also recognize in some cases they may be an incapacitated driver, which they won't even respond. And of course we're well aware of some of the other technologies being used, Haas Alert being one of them, which is certainly a laudable effort. The only potential challenge for implementation of a Haas Alert is that you have to have all vehicles equipped with the Haas Alert compatible receiver and signaling devices, which isn't something that's standard equipment in anything at the moment. So this system that we're developing doesn't require anything to be put into any other vehicles. So yeah, we're still working on the signaling and warning strategies to both direct the attention of the people near the vehicle to the oncoming threat so they can move, take evasive action in the few seconds they may still have, as well as to attempt to try to wake up or alert the oncoming driver. So
yeah, Craig, let me in. So we applaud the work of Haas, et cetera. Because I work directly with the co-owners themselves, I've had story after story of the inebriated driver, the one you can't, no matter what, you're not going to reach. There's also examples we've seen of people with family trauma, fathers with daughters with cancer that they just are so, you know, embedded and embroiled in it. We're doing something about there's no hope but to save ourselves. Thanks, Greg.
Sure. So let's just move further. We're going to touch on just briefly on the architecture. This is, of course, downloadable. We don't need to spend time on this call, but I want to get, so next slide, please. So this is just a list of the equipment used in the off-the-shelf system. I don't think we need to go through this now. It's available for download. Let's move on to the next slide. And this is the... Well, the comment
I want to make about that is we're shooting for a product, and this is a hard thing to say, less than $1,000 because it's all OTS off the shelf. The large cost of development is going to be in the software, but once it's done, you know, it's a whole different ball game. So so form factor, will be continually worked on, and then cost. I mean, if I had my way, it would be $500. Those are things we look forward to having good results on. Thanks, Greg.
Sure. So again, this is just the architecture of the current system, not the production system, the current instrumented proof of concept system, and the way it's meant to be used on the roadside. So let's move to the next slide, please. And so now let's move to the warning vest, which is the other element of the MOAS system that we also have put together. Mateus has put together. This is a Class 3 warning vest, a Class 3 DOT warning vest, and it's been equipped with, it's a vest that already came with a lighting system, and then we're equipping it with a wireless transceiver that's connecting back to the MOS main box, and we're using the Zigbee, a common a short-range protocol, wireless protocol, Zigbee, for all communications, and the vest will issue visual alerts through the lights, acoustic alerts through emitting sound from the receiver, transceiver, and then a haptic alert or a vibration alert. And we're experimenting with locations, and we tend to favor up high, at the chest or on the shoulder, where it's immediately detected or perceived by the driver when it's going off, to alert them to an oncoming threat. So that would be, and then one more, next slide I think is the final slide that just shows the, that's the, well, that shows the vest now being tied, showing the vest connected back to the main controller. So I believe that's the last slide, and then we have a video we put together.
Well,
to show.
Sure, but I'd like to make one more comment. The system, the system is all tied to the video, so that we are confirming what is going on, expecting a good result, a medium result, and a poor result, just depending on how well, frankly, the training of the operator is to react to the device. And that in doing so, we are also using high-definition video, so we will see the oncoming vehicle, and we'll see what it does, and we'll see if it leaves. And we have been successful in solving crime by reporting the plate. So we won't use plate recognition, but we will use plate identification, and that will be available should individuals not stop. So that being said, Craig, thank you very much. I think now what we'd like to do is we've done many, but we, in this particular case, made with our client Troy Auto Care of Troy, Michigan, we made the following demonstration available.
There should be sound, Kevin.
Yeah, we have a dirty sound board.
Yeah, you would have been hearing the warnings going off if the sound was turned up.
Yeah, looks like he's going to address it now for us.
Still don't hear the sound. Oh, wait, maybe my computer. Sorry.
And you could, Craig, play yours, or I could.
Looks like a number of folks can hear. I'm not one of them. However,
Yeah, I was going to say I wasn't getting audio on my end, but I know when I played it earlier, it was getting audio through.
Sure. So is there any way, if so, an alternate would be, Craig, if you'd like to screen share.
I have the video up if I have screen share capability. Do I have that?
As a presenter, you should, yeah.
But let's see here. Let me just see which button would bring up the screen share. I'm not familiar with this interface.
So on the left side,
Screen?
where it's, yeah, that's the one.
Oh, that's Share, okay, share screen. Oh, it wants me to download an app and install an app, which I don't have. I'm just using the browser. Don't think you want to do that. Wait for me to do that. Any other way to do this?
Let me try another version of the file.
I did, the download of the Adobe Connect did just go fast. I'm going to just try it. Just in parallel.
Is there a volume button that you're not using?
Craig, maybe you can just use that.
Yeah, I'm almost done installing the Adobe. Yeah,
That we
it's okay. It's not going to be fast enough. This installation is not a fast one.
Based on the responses, it looks like those that were on the phone call, like we're getting audio through phone, weren't hearing it, but those that were getting audio through the computer, we're hearing it just fine.
I thought I didn't hear it through my phone, but
great. Myself neither. So that's great. There we go.
Did you hear it, Scott?
I heard a blip. Yeah. So to the point here, and again, this audio was professionally produced, and it worked. So it's no reflection on the device whatsoever. So in the meantime, we can speak to it's completely programmable. That we can literally from a phone and an app, we can set the parameters of how it would work, what range, what distance, what speed, and testing would go into both urban, rural, highway, weather-related, etc. And in doing so, we are welcoming both technical and even financial support so that the maximum can be applied to putting a dent into these terrible tragedies that are happening. And with that, we appreciate and welcome comments at the appropriate time and questions.
Okay, Scott and Craig. I know I have some questions, but first I want to kick it back over to Paul.
Yep.
Paul, you have any initial thoughts?
No, I actually have a thought that was in a question in the chat pod about false alarms, false alerts. I know that's a big problem with intrusion devices. You guys have any information on that?
Yeah, I'm just writing.
Are we going to? Okay, so are we going to target these questions to Dominic first on his platform and then address ours?
Well,
or just random?
No, let's just stick with the MOAS presentation here, if you don't mind. Scott,
Okay,
and
sure.
Craig, and,
Sure.
and Dom, and then we'll go back to the tethered drones with Dom.
Sure. So so to answer that question, this is where we are really looking for the input and the help from the experts, because there is clearly a difference between urban, rural, highway, etc. And because the settings can be programmed to do whatever we want, we certainly want to have it operate with limiting false positives. So so we will go through, that will be the focus of the actual next field tests, where we would, we're welcoming advice and assistance to determine what is the secret sauce. I mean, we know we have all the ingredients, we just need to, when you do need to, in the next steps, find out what is the happy medium between sensitivity and reaction.
Okay, what about the question about how far back will it detect?
So if I could just speak in general, and by the way, Mateus, you are the engineer, and you're welcome to join in if possible. But I will simply say that we are applying the same methodologies and same technologies that are used in all OEM adaptive advanced driver assistance system or collision avoidance technology, which would be radar, LiDAR, cameras. We'll be using all of the same technologies which look to the same range. So there would be, in any of the questions or comments about performance under environmental conditions are equally applicable in whatever works in the case of OEM vehicles, and collision avoidance would apply here as well. Radar generally is unaffected by weather. It's not affected by day or night. Low light camera systems, and of course we can augment with infrared illumination if necessary to help those systems see. LiDAR is unaffected by lighting conditions. So we'll be using the same technologies that have been certified for automotive use.
So to answer the question a different way, 3 to 6 seconds back. So depending on speed, that'll cause duration. Obviously, the farther back you set the settings, the higher degree of error. But in relative terms, several hundred feet is extremely manageable. And that will be, and those type of matters will certainly be vetted through testing, but the capability, is up to 1,000 feet. The question is the trade-off of sensitivity, and so we don't start to pick out having operators ignore the signals.
Okay, so question, and I don't know if you covered it, Scott or Craig, the number of states that you're testing right now. I think you said you have a control center, if you will, a monitoring center in Phoenix, but how many others, how many states or, organizations, municipalities are you working with?
We are just now going to begin opening it with the second phase device to participants. So we would want to organize an effort, look to see who would be interested, and then we would set up a program with goals and objectives with those who want to help us. So we're at the point now where that would be the next step, is to arrange for partners.
Okay, and I think Craig mentioned OEMs. Any collaboration with them at this time, or?
No, only because speed to market is where the aftermarket works. And so we are also distributors for Mobileye, for example. And the retrofit of Mobileye to our tow trucks and ambulances is another high regard of ours. So in fact, we use a 3-point approach where we use video, we use analytics of driving, and we use such as geotab, and then forward collision avoidance such as Mobileye. So in this case, we are we are advancing into this cost.
Yeah, because in the connected vehicle and autonomous vehicle arena, obviously the use of the technology similar to what you have in your box, if you will, already exists to a certain extent. Certainly LiDAR and others, correct?
Yeah, sure. Answering some of the other questions, and the answer is yes. You bet. There's a battery-operated device as well as a fixed operator device. And so, yes, the whole thought here was to be able to assist construction workers and other places there as well, and to daisy chain so that you can light the whole lineup down the road when there's that probability. And so, yes, we absolutely look forward to that. And the 100 feet per second, yeah. So at 3 seconds, you'd be at 300 feet. And we do think that, and that down before, right, Craig indicates 300 to 400 feet. So these are, I think these key opportunities. Go ahead.
Could I interject this for a moment? I apologize greatly, but I have to leave now to catch a flight. I will keep my phone on, but I have to go offline, so I can't read any more comments. I would invite Mateus to enter into the chat and answer questions, and I'll still listen and answer by phone.
Okay, Craig. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
I want to ask my other colleague, Joe Tebow, who's a retired firefighter. Joe, any quick thoughts before we move on to Dom?
No, just, great information and great technology that's out there. Just thanks for all that you do in the name of saving lives, and Tim saves lives every day. So thanks for all you do, folks.
We are grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, it's just incredible potential when you think about it seriously. So there was a question from John, and then we'll move on to Dominic on the tethered drones. Any Q&A? I saw activity in the box chat pod earlier. But that of placing it on a traffic cone, your technology, Scott, set up by an operator that detects. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Sure, Bob's barricades, barrels, yes. I think it was 0.05 amps is what the draw is. And therefore, you could get a tremendous amount of duration out of it. Obviously, the activation would increase the draw, but we absolutely, I mean, not only that, it could be in warehouses. It could be in all kinds of places where you have vehicles interacting with personnel.
Yes, sir.
Racetrack. Corner workers. It could be, my background is 20 years of professional auto racing. The application is very broad.
Yes, and you heard me harping on, the low-hanging fruit that is the TIM training that we've got to continue to pursue, but when and if we can rely on a system such as MOAS or others, I must admit. And by the way, I didn't, I don't think we showed a disclaimer early on, Paul or Joe, but we're not here to endorse the system here, the MOAS or any other system, because that's not what we do in the federal government. But we definitely share technologies for our national TIM community to look into. So with that, Scott, I'm sorry we have to move on, but thank you and Craig and your team for all your work. And as Joe said, there's a huge potential here to save lives, and we will stay tuned and hopefully see that come to fruition. So
great, and we welcome everybody to contact us that is interested. We mean it. We look forward to putting together a collaboration to move forward, and you're welcome to reach out at any time directly to me to to see what we can work together. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So back to the Tethered Drone Program of North Carolina. I see, well, I think most of the questions have been fielded. Did I miss any?
So I went through most of the questions. I didn't see any ones that we didn't answer to. It looks like Jacksonville and us were going back and forth quite a bit about a lot of his questions.
Yeah.
They seem to be having a similar program that we do have down south. I would like to say that the Division of Aviation is purchasing additional tethered drones for use in other aspects of the department. They're showcasing ours out quite a bit. And I think what they're looking to do is a variety of different things. I think they're going to, try to add a tethered drone to like their mobile command vehicle. I think they're going to try to add tethered drones to site inspections. And they're just on top of wanting to do whatever they can with the tethered drones. And, and again, I'm not, we're doing an evaluation of the two different systems. So right now I'm not set on either one, but they are convinced that the photokite is the way to go. They love it. But we'll see what the other one comes out to be like. The other question that was kind of interesting was we were talking about the Chinese aspect of DJI is a Chinese drone. The federal government, back in my military days, we had to go away from using DJI drone, DJI, whatever the Chinese drones. We had to go away from them specifically because of some issues with the feeds going back into the cloud, which is going back into China, and there was we stopped purchasing those drones specifically in the federal government side. So I don't imagine that North Carolina is going to be too far away from that same kind of buy American kind of strategy as well. Photokite is actually, it's either Swedish or I can't remember. It's one of the northern countries in Europe. And they have an office here, obviously United States, but it is not a Chinese drone. I wouldn't doubt that some of the parts are Chinese, but the drone itself is not Chinese based.
Very good. Thank you for that. Anybody else? We still have about 12 minutes.
Hey, Jim.
Oh.
I did want to mention, because Dom had mentioned in his presentation about stick grants, and I did want to put a plug in for what a stick grant is. So a stick grant is a federal highway grant having to do, as Dom had mentioned, with innovation. So they're called State Transportation Innovation Council grants. So each state has a State Transportation Innovation Council that basically works with federal highway at the division office level and at federal highway level, and usually the state DOT. And each state gets $100,000 per fiscal year to deploy or to use in any way they want relative to innovation. So this, when Don says they got 50,000 out of the 100,000 for this, to use for this innovation, that's what he's talking about. And if you have ideas or concepts or something that just needs a little bit of funding, because 100,000 isn't much, but sometimes 50,000, 25,000, 50,000, 75,000 will do it. And but in your state, go to the State Transportation Innovation Council, and they'll walk you through putting the request through.
Yeah, Jim, let me jump on that one too, because that grant has funded quite a few of our pilots. I think each year for the past 4 or 5 years, we've used that grant to help us out with a variety of different things. I will tell you though that the money is one thing. The hard part is the DOT side, like the state DOT side, and trying to get through procurement and to get some of these innovations going. I will tell you that software and anything IT related or even smells like IT is hard. And it takes a lot of fortitude, internal fortitude to make your way through it. It is well worth it once you start to receive the benefits that we're seeing though.
Yeah, I'm sure many folks on this call are familiar with the trials and tribulations of going through the procurement process in our agencies. And I can feel your pain.
Indeed. Anybody else? Now's your chance. Okay. Well, I guess I could give another minute or so to anybody who wants to type in a question. If not, speak up. One of the things that Paul, Joe, and I are also very much still engaged in is the research projects for the efficacy of the move over laws, large project that Paul runs, and the other one regarding the responder struck by line of duty deaths. Both of them funded thanks to NHTSA, and our honor to work with the Volpe folks and the contracting teams, but also our friends over at the Office of Safety, Anna Maria Eigner and Carol Tan, FHWA Office of Surf Safety, and both those ladies are PhDs and scientists that are just tremendous to work with. And so in general, this is, both move over and responder struck by obviously go to really everything we're talking about today, but certainly to the MOAS system and even the tethered or untethered aerial vehicles, aerial systems that are technology that just continues to grow. And so we're very delighted and hope you are too, and that you take advantage of that. One thing that Paul mentioned also is, involvement, from any of the states, the map that Paul showed of states that have participated on the monthly Talking Tim. We're very much interested in you. If, anybody on this call, if you know of something you want to share, something new and exciting that you're working on, please let us know. And
yeah, Jim, we did get one question on that someone it was confused that was just a map of people that have participated and have listened in on the Talking Tim webinars, but that map was a map of presenters, the different states who have presented. I think we probably have just about every state has participated with us. Representation from every state has been listened in on a Talking Tim, but that map was on presenters. So, as Jim said, if you have something unique, I mean, we don't, we like to share unique and new and innovative ideas. And it doesn't have to be technical, it just has to be something the rest of the community can benefit by.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So we have 5 minutes left.
Is Craig still on, Jim?
Craig, no, I think Craig moved on.
Okay.
Or was it Scott?
Scott, is anyone from MOAS still here? Oh, he answered that. He answered in the chat pod. I'm sorry. Jack Sullivan had asked that question a while ago, but he had put it in the chat pod. So
yes, yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I mean, it was because we were talking about the traffic cones. We're talking about barricades, barrels. Absolutely. Also, the address. We are working with William Fabric. We are a partner. We see a great opportunity to collaborate with the masked approach and the ability to have that, in FEMA events, let's say, where you've got responders coming in and out that need their protection. You've got at the front of the pack where maybe the first vehicle in a whiteout or an ice situation has crashed, and that, and then devices working and communicating together in a daisy chain for miles. So you bet.
Okay. Very good. Well, Paul, you want to close it out?
yeah, I think we're good. you know, next month we're excited about some of the presentations as well as we were this month. But yeah, we're looking to looking forward to talking to you all next month. And you know, there's a link to register for these. If you're not on the distribution list that we have, and I should have put that in the chat pod a while ago, but I didn't. Yeah, I just put it in the chat pod. If you no, that's not it. Anyways, if you want that link to get our newsletter and these announcements for this webinar, reach out to us and we'll get it for you. Pretty easy. So.
Yeah, and another again reminder, you mentioned Paul and Kevin, the wonderful resources that is the National Operations Center of Excellence that we affectionately call the NOCO. A tremendous amount of data and resources there regarding transportation systems management and operations. TIM, obviously, which is a huge part of TSMO, and everything else. So take advantage of that. And so we thank you all for your participation again. Thank you to the presenters, and we thank Kevin Vita and Adam Hops and the National Operations Center for your support. And so we'll see you next month, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, and remember, train, 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 and train some more, because you can do it, and it's up to you. You have to push the envelope, and you have to ask the questions, make the phone calls, send the emails. Please, let's do everything we can to continue to save lives. As Joe Tebow said, that traffic incident management really does impact. You don't see them, but we're saving lives every day. Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.